Welcome, debtors and borrowers, to Bankruptcy Bailout, because debt ruins lives, not bankruptcy. My name is Matt Burkus. I'm a Colorado-based bankruptcy and student loan relief attorney, and today we're going to talk about credit card charge-offs. So what are they? What does it mean? How does it impact your credit? And what, if anything, you can do about it? So let's get into it. So what exactly is a charge-off? Well, there's a surprising number of laws that come to bear on when a credit card will be charged off. But the basic idea is that you've gone for a certain number of months without making the payment, so now the credit card company has to indicate that they consider it a bad debt at this point. So some of the laws that come into play relate to the IRS code for tax purposes, because when a company has a bad debt, they get to write it off on their taxes. GAAP, or generally accepted accounting principles, come into play because, again, there's a whole bunch of financial reporting that goes into when a debt is good, when a debt is bad, and that reporting has to be accurate. Banking regulations and the Federal Reserve come into play in defining charge-off because they're interested in the stability, the financial stability of the credit card company, the underwriting banks and their liquidity. And then, of course, the SEC, or the Securities and Exchange Commission, and their various rules weigh in on this as well because, again, they want investors to be able to know what the financial situation is of the company. So charge-off is basically a reporting entry. It isn't any substantive thing as far as the borrower is concerned. So the most common definition, or the most common metric used for charge-off, is 6 months with no payment, and no payment of more than or of less than 75% in the last 90 days. So basically, you've been in default of your credit card for 180 days. At that point, the credit card company will charge it off, and that charge-off entry is going to show up on the status section of your credit report. Now, very important here, what charge-off isn't. Charge-off doesn't mean you don't owe the debt, okay? Again, charge-off is really just an accounting and financial bookkeeping entry for the company. It doesn't weigh in or doesn't change your obligation to pay that debt. Now, what typically happens for most credit cards when they charge off a debt and it goes into default status and the charge off, is they're eventually going to sell the debt into the debt buyer market. So you have a very small window of time to try to fix it if you want to try to continue to work with the original creditor. But you have to get on the phone, you have to be prepared to make a payment, try to get things current. You're going to have to work with them to try to get that taken care of. But that's what a charge-off is, okay? 6 months, no payments, you're in default status. Credit card company there at that point is obligated by a slew of different laws to go ahead and indicate that that debt is charged off. And now it just means that your debt is most likely going to be sold into the debt buyer market, and then you're going to hear from someone like Portfolio Recovery Services, Midland Funding, or a slew of others at some point saying, hey, we have your debt now, pay us. And obviously, I think you can understand what the credit impact here is going to be. It's going to be quite bad because you have defaulted on a recurring open-ended credit line. And that's the worst kind of debt to default on, okay? Because credit cards, open-ended credit, is the most important or valuable type of account to have on your credit report. And when you start letting those go into charge-off, it becomes a significant negative impact on your credit. And then, not to mention, when these accounts go into collection, then those collection agencies and the debt buyers start reporting these delinquent accounts, and it just cascades. And then there's just this cascade of badness on your credit report. So, look, as far as what to do about it, I'm not here to sort of sell you some sort of credit repair scam that you see a lot on YouTube and other places like that. The fact of the matter is that your credit report can contain true and accurate information about you. So if you really, had this debt, you haven't made payments for 6 months, they can report it as charged off, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it from a credit reporting standpoint. What you have to focus on is how are you going to address the underlying debt? So you can either negotiate and try to get the debt back in good status, assuming it hasn't been sold yet. Once it's sold, it's gone, right? You can't. So if once Citibank sells your debt, you can't get it back to Citibank. All right. So once it goes to Midland Funding or whoever else is going to get it, you're done. You got to work with whoever buys the debt at that point. But you have a window of opportunity maybe to try to claw it back if they haven't sold the debt yet. You can try to negotiate some sort of payment plan to get back current. You can try to settle the debt, which is negotiate a lump sum payment. So if you owe, say, $6,000, maybe you come up with $3,000, $4,000 to just pay them. But I think if you had $3,000 or $4,000 lying around, you probably wouldn't be in 6 months in default of the debt. Certainly, in my line of work, most people, when their debts start charging off, I mean, they're in deeper financial problems. This isn't, charge-off is usually an indication of a more severe financial situation. This isn't just, a couple missed payments and then you just claw it back and work with the bank and you pay some late fees. This indicates a more severe problem, and most people who go to charge-off are going to be looking at filing bankruptcy at some point. And that's really the most cost-effective option because you get to eliminate the debt, and it's relatively inexpensive to do a bankruptcy. And of course, you can do nothing. You could put your head in the sand and see what happens, but ultimately, that scenario leads to years and years and years of bad credit, and eventually they're going to sue you and try to get a judgment against you. And at that point, in most states, they are allowed then to garnish your wages, levy bank accounts, and so forth. And unfortunately, I see a lot of people who wait that long and then they come see me about a bankruptcy when things have really gotten out of hand, where they could have probably rebounded much more quickly had they addressed this, say, right after the accounts went to charge off or whenever their financial situation, at least in some sense, stabilized. So that is credit card charge-offs. My name is Matt Burkus. I'm a Colorado-based bankruptcy and student loan relief attorney. Best of luck to you.